So, welcome back from the break, back to today's episode of Perspective. Today we have a quarter-final show, and we're in our final phase, phase 3, the judges' questions round. So this is probably the toughest round throughout the whole of today's show. So before the break, it was getting very, very hot, so I had to call a break just to allow it to cool down. But I still don't think it's cooled down. It's still quite warm up here, but I'm sure the judges are going to try and fuel the fire even more. So what I'm going to ask is, I'm going to ask the judges to give questions to both teams based on what they've said throughout the whole of the episode, and maybe any questions that you may have yourself on the topic if you have maybe a personal preference. So can I ask the judges please to make sure the questions that are given are equally balanced, they get the same amount of questions, just to make sure it's not unfair. And without further ado, let's get into it. So I'm going to come firstly to Mahmood. Can you please give a question?
Yeah, sure. So this is a question to both teams, and I want you guys to try and be a bit creative. So we talked about 18, 16, 14. I mean, sometimes it could be a very minimal difference between these age groups. Can you think of any other kind of benchmark or parameter that we can use for people to vote based on? So like, I don't know, politics exam or something like that.
So can I ask EYC Group 1 to ask first? So the whole topic here, the debate, the barrier which is being used is age. Do you think there's another barrier that we can use other than age which can dictate who is allowed to vote and who isn't?
I don't think there can be one for a 16-year-old, like if they're doing their GCSEs, because they might get stressed about the test. You could do a test for like politics, but they might get stressed over that test when GCSEs is more important than the test for the politics.
Daniel?
I think that the elderly people should be able to decide if 16-year-olds should vote as well, and other people, because what 16-year-olds vote can affect those older people. Therefore, I think they should see and choose if 16-year-olds should be allowed to vote.
So you're saying sort of referendum?
Yeah, as a community.
Okay.
Yeah, I agree with Daniel. I think that adults should decide on whether 16 years old should vote or not.
Okay, so now I'm going to ask Freedom Fighters. I'm going to reiterate that Mahmood was asking about benchmark other than age. He wasn't asking about how the voting age should be decided, but another benchmark other than age.
So let's say, for example, like a minimal knowledge test, for example, to test your passion or your knowledge of the political community or whatever.
Nadia?
I do think that the future generations should be much more aware of politics, and that's why I really hope that it would be in the curriculum as well. But I don't really think that it's possible to have another benchmark because of democracy. I mean, everybody does have the right to vote for what they believe in and have a stand to how the government works, because it does affect them. So hopefully more people will be more aware of this topic. But I think that because no matter who you are, you still live in this country where politics and stuff will obviously occur. I think it just has to be by age. I'm not sure if you have any other ideas, but
I believe that the younger generation had the right to vote because society is changing. The old generation, they lived in a world where racism was okay, the LGBT was shunned upon, and there was barely any diversity. But now the younger generation is changing everything. They became more socially and economically liberal. Like we now embrace people regardless of the sexuality, the gender, the races, or the religions. And there's so much more diversity, and we're all united. Their upbringing, how we were raised, is completely different from how politicians were raised back then. They lived in a world where it was okay to be all racist and that. But now, the fact that we embrace everyone, we understand what the future needs, because we are the future and everything has changed. So I think we have the right to know who will be the most suitable to vote and change the future, because we are the future.
Okay, thank you very much, Samira. Okay, so Mahmood, as Nadira said, specifically picking the smartest of the smartest in that area could be a violation of democracy itself. So that's why maybe age is the only benchmark that can be used. Can I ask Swiber, perhaps, if you have a question?
For EYC Group 1, you spoke about turnout amongst young people being low. The most recent election, I'm sure some of you followed it, turnout for you, I don't have the exact statistics unlike you guys because I'm clearly not as prepared, but turnout amongst young people was higher, a lot higher than previously. Do you not think that this is evidence that maybe the political climate is changing and more people are wanting to get involved and voice their opinions and are showing interest?
Yeah, but those people who chose may not be educated about it in school, so we don't know if we should rely on those votes or we should, trust those votes that we that voted, and they're still like immature and we have to educate, because in my school like I haven't been taught anything about politics, so I don't really know much unless I teach myself and like taught myself how to do everything.
Okay, Daniel, you know add on?
Well, the reason for the younger people having the most turnout was probably because of their passion, which can be used as another benchmark. As you can see, that adults as well. What I would like to say was that because the younger people had a passion to vote because of the most recent vote turnout because of what happened.
Okay, thank you very much, Daniel. Can I ask maybe now Ahmed if you have a question?
Yeah, but I have a question for freedom fighters.
Okay.
And my question is, if the UK was to lower the voting age to 16, it would be one of the, if not the only, one of the few countries in the world and Europe to do so. Do you think that would delegitimize the value of our democracy, in terms of we would be one of the only countries with allowing 16-year-olds to vote compared to, let's say, our European counterparts?
I don't think that would happen in any way, because if you're giving a voice to 16-year-olds, how is that not democracy? I mean, perhaps the other European countries, they may be slightly behind. I mean, there's always somebody that has to make the first move. I think if England makes that first move, then that's an amazing thing, and we should be proud of that. It's something that's really good to say that 16-year-olds in your country are passionate about the politics. They're the future generation. They're going to be the next politicians. Shouldn't they be the ones that are voting? And if you're worried about the comparison between other European countries, well, don't, because that's a great thing.
As of 2017, there's a lot more diverse young people from different backgrounds who have come into the UK, and this will actually inspire other countries, even the European Union, that young people, it does really actually, politics actually does matter in their lives, and there's always a good that will actually help them towards the future if they actually be given the chance to vote at the age of 16.
Okay, so allowing 16-year-olds to vote shouldn't be something that you should be ashamed of, but rather something that you should be proud of. Maybe something which can lead on to other countries following in your footsteps. Can I ask just for perhaps one or two more questions from the judges, if you'd like to volunteer?
I've got a question for these guys. Fundamentally speaking, what do you think is the difference between an 18-year-old and a 16-year-old, and why? What's the difference? What makes them tick, in your opinion, in terms of maturity?
So why should 18-year-olds be allowed to vote but not 16? What's the difference?
16-year-olds just finished their GCSEs and they haven't experienced the world as much as 18-year-olds, so they wouldn't know the world properly, and they wouldn't like see how hard it is. Like if you vote, they won't know if it's like a good thing or a bad thing if they vote for a different party.
I would just like to add to that. 18-year-olds when you're 18, that's the age when you leave your house, not by force, but you have a choice to leave your house, and most 18-year-olds do, to leave for university or college, and that shows us their starting experience with the outside world, whereas 16-year-olds are still in the same house with their parents.
Okay, Mahmoud, you please.
That's a very good answer.
Can I get perhaps one more question from the judges? Oh, would you like to say something?
But did you know that at the age of 16 you can win a Nobel Prize, you can get married, you're allowed to learn to drive, you can start your own business, and that, like, you could work for NASA, you could do so many things. So the difference between 18 and 16 years is actually really nothing.
Okay, so the only difference between an 18 and 16-year-old is the fact that one of them is allowed to move out the house and the other is not.
Could I ask that?
Yeah, sure.
I mean, the age difference between a 16-year-old and an 18-year-old is just 2 years. I mean, she's 2 years older than me. I don't really see a difference between politics between us two. I mean, if anything, both of us are really encouraged to actually learn more about politics. So I don't really see how that differs.
So 2 years actually doesn't mean anything. Daniel, do you want? Okay.
Yeah. Well, I wasn't pointing at you two, but other people as well, as a community.
Yeah, I get that, but I'm just...
Yeah.
You're talking about us two.
Okay,
Yeah, I know, I'm
it's
just
fine.
saying that I wasn't pointing at both of you. I mean, it can be other people as well.
Yeah, I think we should leave this as a debate and not a boxing match. Alright, so can we, that brings us to an end of the judges' question round, and now we're going to come to the final decision part of the show, where the judges are going to have to decide on the winning team and also a best speaker. So one of the people out of the 6 contestants today is going to win the best speaker award, so that's going to be the person who spoke the best, of course. And so they don't have to be from the winning team, they can be from the losing team. So what I'm going to do is, because this is a quarter final, we've got a new voting system coming in. So for the best speakers, just like before, the judges will talk to each other about who won. But for the winning team, what's going to happen is the judges are each going to receive a little piece of paper, and they each, without the other judges seeing, they're going to write the team name who they think won, and they're going to put it into our perspective box that we have on the judge's desk over there. And then they're going to fold up their note. Mahmoud, if you could start distributing the papers. They're going to fold up their note, put it in the box, then they're going to give me the box, and I'm going to pull it out, and I'm going to announce which team won today's debate. Before that, judges, can I just ask you to quickly just talk to each other and decide who was the best speaker, so then we can announce that before you actually get into the voting. So today on Perspective, we had a very, very action-packed quarter-final episode. Both teams very good, as shown by the fact that they won the preliminary round and they came through to the quarterfinals. And this wasn't going to be easy for either team, because as you can see, they were all very well prepared, and it was getting very, very heated. For one stage, at 1 second, I thought this was no longer a debate but rather a boxing match, because I could see the anger coming from all the contestants. But as long as we all enjoyed it, I think that this was a very good show today. I was impressed with the arguments and statistics that both teams gave, and I think that this was one that the audience, you guys, will definitely have enjoyed. So judges, have you decided on a best speaker?
Yes.
So can you pass me the box before we announce the best speaker? Okay, so judges, what I want you to do first is, whoever perhaps Swiber, can you please first announce who the best speaker was, and can we follow that with a round of applause?
For best speaker, everyone did great, and this was really interesting. It was great to hear what you all thought. But for best speaker today, we've got Nadira.
Congratulations to Nadira, you won the best speaker award. So now Team Freedom Fighter has 2 best speakers on his team, so a very strong team. Okay, but now we come to the actual decision. Which team won today's debate? So we've had a change in voting system, as I previously said. So this is going to be different from before, and I'm going to be announcing it and not the judges. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take the first slip. Okay, whoever's handwriting that was atrocious. I managed to read it. So the first vote goes to EYC Group 1. Okay, I want to pick a second slip. The second vote goes to Freedom Fighters. So this is the final vote which actually counts. Guys, you both did very well, and can I just say before I announce these that even if you lose, you guys still should leave this studio with your head held high, because you guys did do very well, and I'm sure the judges will tell you that both teams did very well. So the winning team for today's episode of Perspective, the quarterfinal on the topic of votes at 16, EYC Group 1, who are against, versus Freedom Fighters, who are for. So I'm just trying to long this out for as long as possible. But the winner is Freedom Fighters. Well done. 2 votes to 1. Well done to the Freedom Fighters. Congratulations. Commiserations to EYC Group 1. I think both teams did very, very well, and I think the judges will be pleased with what you've seen today. So before we leave, can I just ask the judges, maybe each of you very briefly, to say what you've been impressed with, or maybe what improvements you'd like to see in the future?
You can really tell it's the quarter-final. The level of arguments and level of sort of opinions have increased and really improved, and excited to move forward with the show.
Swiber, very briefly.
I've been really impressed. I actually think that you guys might be the benchmark. This is what we want. You know, this is why we have these debates. It's interesting, and it's been great to hear what you all think.
Mahmoud?
Yeah, as the other guys were saying, you know, I was very impressed by how spontaneous that you guys were, and grabbing the mics with each other, which is what we want to see.
Okay, thank you very much to the judges. Thank you very much to both teams. It was a debate which I really enjoyed. I mean, I'm very lucky just to sit here and not get involved, because I just love watching these debates. I think it was very good. Both teams very well prepared, and I really enjoyed it. So, commiserations to EYC Group 1. You are out of the Perspective tournament, but you guys were very good competitors. So I think a round of applause for EYC Group 1. And it looks like the Freedom Fighters have fought their way through to the semi-finals of this Perspective debate show competition. So I think all of us are happy with today's debate, and I think I'm gonna bring it to a close for today's episode. So, guys, thank you for coming on today, and we'll catch you guys in the next episode.
You didn't bottle it. You didn't.
What did I say?
You didn't bottle the most incredible announcement.
Because you said 4. Who wrote